Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quest for the Best Director podcast. It's Matthew Moore. Co-host is Caleb Ferguson. And Caleb, actually, going to start off the podcast with some bad news, bud.
What's that?
You are getting too old for the podcast.
Oh no. I finally hit the limit, huh? Who am I being replaced by?
Someone younger, stronger.
Uh, I knew it would happen eventually.
But the good news is, it is editor! Yay!
Yay. That's good.
Which might be the only job worse than bathroom attendant, honestly. Also joining us is who really loves moms. Derek Schwarzinski, how's it going?
Pretty alright.
You, as you were watching Partie, Campagne, did you just like kinship with Rudolph?
Oh yeah, of course.
I could grow that mustache, then we'd really be talking.
Oh my god. That mustache was amazing.
Mustache. But this is the Quest for the Best Director podcast. Each week we pit two directors against each other. To it. So we're at the quarterfinals with the director's third best movies. This week it's going to be Jean Renoir's Partie de Campagne versus F.W. Murnau's The Last Laugh. Partie de Campagne is basically about this quick little affair between these guys who kind of hang out in the country and as they try to seduce women, and this young, unsuspecting city girl. It's about this old doorman who's too old for his job now and is reduced to being a bathroom attendant. Both very old movies, but I'm super excited to talk about it. How you guys feel about these movies?
I think they're pretty good. I like it was hard for me to really like dig into either of them when I first watched it, but now that they've kind of sat on the back burner of my brain for a little while and stewed, I think I'm starting to get a little bit more of an appreciation.
Really, it was hard for you to watch them. That's actually really interesting because I feel like this is the strongest round so far. Derek, what are your thoughts in general?
In general, I wasn't too super impressed with either of them.
Oh,
Yeah, I kind of concur with that. I fell asleep during
The Last
the
Laugh.
Murnau one, yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Well, it'll be my job to convince you guys otherwise because I think these are both amazing movies. Part of what's impressive about these movies, both of them really, is like their influence, right? So we can get into that maybe a bit too. Some sort of role when you're talking about like movies that are this old.
Yeah.
So which one do you guys want to get into first?
Let's do A Day in the Country.
Day in the Country, or as the French say, Partie de Campagne. This is an incomplete movie. It's
Yeah.
very short. It's like 45 minutes.
I thought that the short length actually was to its advantage because I felt that was able to tell a pretty whole story in a brisk pace.
Yeah, and the story itself kind of lends to being short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, fair, right?
hmm
So it kind of feels all right that it's quick. Yeah, is it a bit too quick? Sure. I assume where it was going, we're probably gonna see the girl back in the city and the guy back in the country, and they meet up again. But
Yeah.
I'm fine like missing that, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
But obviously, this movie's doing some amazing things. What are some things that stood out to you guys?
Uh, how it's shot a lot of the time is very clean, and there's some interesting shots even at the very beginning, when the dudes are talking in, I assume, like the hotel, and it cuts through the window to the swing set.
Let's get into this because this is arguably like all cinema right here, right? It's like not only because like it's really great and beautiful, like you're saying. So like you're saying, it's this two guys are talking. They open this window, and then we see like the girl swinging, this beautiful girl, and they get this like beautiful music real quick. We kind of in this deep space sort of shot. And this is obviously incredibly important because it's going to influence things like Citizen Kane, which will, movie of all time, like it's mini say. And I think this shot is just so kind of shows why Renoir is so innovative, right?
Hmm.
But also, I just love the fact that it's a window. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's such an interesting thing because windows are usually meant to divide, right? Not to divide
Hmm.
like, two separate shots. You know, like
Hmm.
you usually have on one side of the window, one space existing on the other. We'll get into this. Talk about a lot of windows and doors this episode. But we'll talk about this a lot stuff too. But I think it's interesting how by opening this window up, he's kind of putting them into one. We get this beautiful juxtaposition between like these guys who, especially Rudolph, are looking kind of like sleazy and creepy, and this girl who looks so innocent
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
on this great day in the country.
I think it does kind of lend itself to some idea of distance, though. She's kind of like an object of affection, and they're far enough away still that they can have this conversation without fear of being overheard that much.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly why it's so brilliant, right? Because it's not like oh they're right next to each other. Because usually when you're juxtaposing things, you have to deal with interaction. Because
Hmm.
if you don't have something in the same shot, usually they have to be in relation to each other, like narratively. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know if show the narratively here, but I guess. But she has no idea about these guys, right? At least presumably. You
Yeah,
know, it is a bit creepy, you know, but you really get the sense of affection there because it is almost voyeuristic in this way. You know,
yeah.
but this is a bit of a perverted movie, so it works out.
Also, the shot, I think, of the girl swinging, but done super up close, so you see like her
Yeah,
face from below. It's such an interesting shot because you have the movement of her swinging along captured in the background of. It's a really interesting shot.
and then you also like get it juxtaposition with these like shots of Rudolph. They're kind of like close up to him too. He's like wiping his mouth and stuff.
Yeah, and twirling his
Looking real
mustache.
sleazy. Yeah, it's like it's once again just another beautiful juxtaposition, right? And I also love like how melodic it is, right? Because it's not like we get like a couple shots of her swinging, right? We get like upwards of 20 shots probably of her going back and forth in the swing set.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You kind of get drawn in like they do.
Yeah,
Or it
that's
is
true. Sort of like hypnotic almost with the swinging back and forth.
exactly, and which makes it more interesting that Henry at least claims to not be initially drawn in, and it's not till later that he falls for her,
Yeah.
which I think
It's so
kind of says
clever too the
something.
way they like set that up as her at first like sitting with her legs crossed and then all of a sudden have her open them up and then start swinging. So like
Yeah,
both the men themselves in the kitchen and ourselves are sort of like, "Ooh, whoa, what's gonna happen here? Are we gonna
mhm.
get to see
They
up
make
front?"
comments about it too, don't they? They're like, "Oh, she's
Yeah.
open." That's so brilliant. And I also like the of them just like traveling into the country,
Mhm.
right? How almost unconcerned with the country these characters seem to be, or like they almost seem to care more about the fact that they're in the country than the actual country themselves. I think like the shots kind of represent this, right?
Mhm.
Shots are we get a lot of shots of the restaurant. We get a lot of shots of like, but they're in this
Yeah.
beautiful country that we're supposed to think is so beautiful, but we don't really get to appreciate it at all. And I think there's a bit of irony there.
Yeah. I think it was cool because they did a like a first person shot too almost of like their cart coming in as they're like approaching the restaurant. It was like almost like the second shot. Um, and so you feel like you're in the place of the family. And it's interesting that you talk about the lack of nature because I think we do eventually get a touch of nature, and that's when um, he's on the boat with the young girl, and they're
Yeah,
like
we
kind
do.
of just sailing along. And so that's kind of done as like a thematic contrast where we kind of start off as like this kind of farce comedy and eventually get into like a really beautiful moment where we finally
Well, I
start
think
paying attention to nature.
because these are the two characters that we kind of see appreciate the beauty, right? Like I said
Yeah,
earlier, Henry isn't the one to like initially fall for. I think her name's Henriette, right?
yeah,
Um, but he's not the one that should fall for because he's not. I think she doesn't quite seem to be an impulse girl. She's someone who's we see her on the swings, like really, actually, genuinely enjoying the country, while like the mom, the dad, and whatever the goofy guy's name is. I mean,
well,
Anatoly.
because they were all on the swings together. Like the mom was on the swing too.
yeah, but we don't get these like shots. I mean, she is on the swing physically, but like from the filmic perspective, right? We don't get these shots of the mom like kind of embracing the nature of it, right? Like we're talking like these
Yeah, that's true.
shots, upward up shots of her quarreling, right? And when she goes off with Rodolphe, when the mom does, she does it to kind of spite her husband almost, or just to for her
Yep.
own self, like for, for what's happening in the city. But I feel like when Henriette goes off with Henry, it's to really enjoy the country in this moment.
Agree. There's also so many funny characters in this movie, like the grandma, and
Yeah.
then the like I guess like the shop worker husband of the young girl. That's also like I guess like the brother-in-law, right?
Mhm.
Or son-in-law, I mean. And his hair is just so goofy, and his clothes are like not well fitting at all, and he just like kind of bumbles around and like I want to go fishing.
He's such like a beta to this dad. You know what I mean? In this like
Yeah,
ridiculous way.
yeah.
Goofy looking guy. And I think we do this on purpose because they don't want us to feel bad for him. You know?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, it's true.
a silly character, but a character like almost couldn't exist. Like that's so clearly not fitting with this girl that it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's actually really cleverly done that they're almost placed on like different levels of reality. You know, like one is a much more like serious story that's being told here, so they're almost on completely different sides of the movie in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because like you can really push this place the country, or you can kind of just get caught up in it, right? And
Yeah,
kind of turn it into your own sitcom.
yeah, yeah. It's totally true. And us as viewers too, like watching this movie, we get the choice to think about this movie as a funny thing or as a like really serious, like talking about the
Totally.
shots and that sort of thing. Yeah, it can be a comedy and it can be a very like thoughtful film.
Rick, you have any thoughts?
None that haven't already been said.
It's one of these things, good stuff. It's like a short movie, right? And it's not like that. Quickly. I guess another thing, big thing we haven't talked about, of course, is this scene. Yet do eventually make love, right? And our turn it takes.
Yeah, that's pretty rapey. Didn't like that part.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
honestly kind of forgot about that because I couldn't put it out of my mind.
Yeah, I think without that scene, I really, really like this movie. But it's just too like I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just gross. It feels too much like this whole movie is just like it's about the implication, bro. It's okay. We're not gonna do anything. It's all about the implication.
I don't think this is quite the implication, but I feel what you're saying. Um, I, I don't know. Why do you think? Because again, also like the movie doesn't seem in a good light, right? Like we say, it's like rapey and bad, but like it is rapey, and the movie kind of I think reflects it as rapey, right? We
Does
get
it
like
though?
clouds start like graying up, and it's like a storm brewing, and like this is bad.
Okay, that's right. I don't quite make that connection. And I guess the other part of that is when they meet again. Well, the only thing is, like, she goes back there, like, years later, like a year later, right? Which makes it seem like she has, like, fond memories of that place. Because why else would she want to go there? Like, if that's, like, a place where something horrible happened to her, she wouldn't want to go back there, like, with her husband.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think this is what can be debated, right? I've seen this movie a couple of times now. I kind of go back and forth. Like, are we supposed to think that she enjoyed this? I feel like we're supposed to think she had mixed feelings on it, right? Because this scene between her and Henry is not the secondary scene where like she goes back and visits him all this year later or whatever. This big romantic moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of very like muted.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like it does tarnish my sense of the movie, though, regardless, to some extent.
What you think? Any movie with like a rape scene is not a good movie? I don't quite
And
understand why.
well,
No, I'm
because
not saying it's not
it's
a good
because
movie. I
it's
didn't say that. I'm saying
presented,
it would be slightly better without it.
and also
I'm
because
asking
it's
you
like
why.
presented as like romantic or whatever. In
Just
the
talk. It's
end,
not presented as romantic.
in the end,
It's
it
definitely
is.
presented as
Oh wait, but
negative.
we
It,
literally got to the point where like it's debatable. You literally said it's debatable.
yeah, at the end, it's definitely, and at least when I was like, okay, I'm done. Let me check out
So like,
what this. Let me research this. A lot of people are like saying the end is like a romantic moment for these two, and it's like that's not. She literally pretty much just got raped.
I agree that it could be debated, but if it wasn't there, then it wouldn't have to be debated. So it would be a. I would just have a better reflection of the movie.
Sure. She's saying if it was more consensual. Basically, that's all you want.
Yeah, or I don't know. Like, I guess that would have helped if that's what he was trying to say. I don't know. Depends on what he's trying to say, I guess.
Do you think how I interpreted it at the end of the day was the country and the city aren't different places. I mean, they are different places inherently, right? Right. We see these
Hmm.
characters and having the shenanigans in this country, the same shenanigans they probably have in the city, and her memories with Henry aren't that good, but obviously her memories of her husband aren't that good either. She kind of sees him as a joke, right?
Yeah.
He's like falling asleep and stuff. I think that's kind of what it's saying is the country and the city are different places, but one's not like this like paradise, while the other is kind of this hellscape. They're kind of both just different.
All right, I can see that.
I take it. That's once again, this movie doesn't lend itself too much. Anything else you guys want to talk about, or do I move on to the last laugh?
I kind of want to just like concur with that. That I feel like this is maybe something that like Renoir would have been able to elaborate on further, and maybe like kind of dig into some of the more complex things that were going on, which may have like made it come off a little bit better if it was completed. You know?
Oh, for sure. Like we said, we still get so many great shots and so many great scenes. Like this scene where they all fall asleep after they eat, I think is like brilliant. Just so funny.
Yeah.
Just all the conversations with the dad, hilarious. And the
Yep.
grandma, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think that's everything I have for this movie. I'm down to move on if y'all are.
This is a movie I have a lot to talk about. So before I say anything, I want you guys to talk about it for a bit. Because then I'm going to go on probably my biggest monologue yet. Who knows?
The
About the
last,
last laugh.
Yeah.
You want to start, Derek? I have been talking a lot.
it's interesting how slow the movie is, given how short the story or narrative really is. As the
Yeah.
primary thing I was thinking about, because realistically, you can sum up this movie in like 2 sentences. Yet it's an hour and a half long.
Yeah, I think that was done because it's meant to be more of like a psychological portrayal than a narrative portrayal. So there's sort of this, I guess, like subjective element to the time aspect because it's all about like his thoughts, you know.
Hmm.
Like that's why. I'm not saying I necessarily like it, but that's at least I think why they did it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I totally agree with you, Caleb. I think it definitely is like a psychological, like almost. It's almost like an art. It's an art, very much an art movie, right? A lot of extended
Hmm.
metaphors, these sorts of things going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll get into. But I just want to say that before I agree. Like when I initially watched this movie, I think I was still like much higher on it than you guys were. Definitely question it narratively and think it was a bit slow. I think once again,
Hmm.
I've come around on that a bit because, like you're saying, Caleb, it's such like a psychological thing and all sorts of. It really is like a true art film. I would say almost like Lost Highway, in this sort of way. Except Lost Highway is all about like kind of cramming everything with narrative to kind of almost the art, or like not disguise the art, but to kind of I guess emphasize the art more. This is about cramming it with just these slower shots, or taking away the narrative to highlight the art more.
Yeah, that's fair.
I seem to really like the former. I'm a bigger fan of the latter, but
Hmm. I definitely did like this movie. It's just, um, yeah, like Derek said, it was a little boring. And yeah, I just feel like they could have made it shorter. Like that's my biggest complaint. It just needed to be a little bit shorter because I think they could have had just a strong psychological portrayal with fewer scenes. Honestly,
Fewer scenes. I don't think the number of scenes is the issue.
Yeah, it's
or
the
like
length of the individual scenes. Like the scene
Like
specifically
the
where the
shots.
guy is like not even is about to be told that got fired, but he hasn't been told he's been fired. Takes like multiple minutes of just nothing until he gets a piece of paper.
I I almost sort of like hard disagree with that because I thought that the like length of the scenes was fine because you get these sort of like nice ambient shots almost, but then like the problem is they switch scenes to some other location, but like nothing is happening narratively. So like as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? Like, why are we in this new place doing this new thing, and what narrative significance does this have? But it doesn't have any narrative significance because it's just the same plot point they've been going over for like, 30 minutes. So for me, it was definitely the number of scenes, and that I wouldn't have minded longer, more drawn out, beautiful shots because at least if that's happening, I'm not expecting narrative development and getting like bathed into it almost.
Mm-hmm.
What scene would you say is like could be taken out? I guess I'm a bit confused.
Well, there's like one scene when he goes to a train station to like get some clothes or something like that, or drop off his clothes. I didn't understand that at all.
Okay, yeah, this is it's literally yeah, it's necessary for the narrative, right? He stole this suit. Can't he wears the suit at home so people think that he is still a doorman. Wear it at work because he's not a doorman. So he's dropping off the
Yeah,
doorman clothes so no one notices.
but why just drop? Why not just like carry it in a bag? I don't get it. There's like so many other options there. It's like convoluted.
And it's not convoluted. It's what we should do back in the day. Because at the time, Caleb, he doesn't, and they definitely make this clear. He doesn't remember that he goes to work
Yes.
wearing a uniform, and then we get like the startling shot again, like it's all over again, where he sees the new doorman. He's like, "Oh no, I
Oh, okay. See,
forgot."
that's what that was. I had no idea why that was happening. I was like, why are there's like trumpets sounding right now?
So then he goes to the place and chops off his uniform.
Let's see.
I do think a lot of these scenes are necessary. I think even more so than the length of the scenes and the length of the shots, or which you can maybe question, right? Maybe a lot of close-ups, a lot of really long close-ups. I think one that stands out over and over again on a rewatch are these shots of this girl thing, but like you know what I'm talking about, like this girl was getting married.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not really working, right? Like, and you understand what they're doing, but it's or he's doing, but it's kind of weird.
Mhm.
Let's get into the beginning. I think this opening scene is like top 5, top 10, like opening scene of film for me personally. Like not like best, but like my personal favorites. So we get like whisked down this elevator, and it's so whimsical. And we get like inches toward this hotel. This static as the camera's not moving, obviously this thing's happening, but the static shot. We're like right at the entrance of this revolving door. And I'm like, the window was in Day in the Country movie, or really the whole point. So it's like this is like a critical kind of first shot, right? Um, kinds of doors. The first is this revolving door, and I think this revolving door is a metaphor for the whole movie because what is life but like a revolving door? You know, you go in, you go out. Right? I think it's like a pretty good metaphor, I would say, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Or at the very least, even if not just in and out of life, but like up and down in life, all the way around in terms of like the Wheel of Fortune type thing.
yeah, exactly, right. Like you lose some sort of thing, but then there's
Yeah.
also this other, and this is where I think it's brilliant. I'm going to skip ahead a bit in the movie. Just the revolving door is also an openness to it, right? Which is also established with this shot. You know, it's not like we get like the side shot of the revolving door. The revolving door is straight on. We can see the outside, and we're still get some of the inside, right?
Mhm.
Or although there was a door and there was a portal between this hotel and the whole city because it's furnishing too. It is there's a connectedness there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like there's no slamming shut. These are not separate spaces. These are still
I
you
see.
know it's going to be juxtaposed way later on in the movie when he's working as what's the word I'm looking for, like in the bathroom
Bathroom
attendant,
attendant?
and we get this very like big, like almost super overly dramatic like door
Yeah,
standard close, and it's because to have a separation between his work life and his personal life, right? Longest time, who he was in his work, the doorman, was who he was at home, the doorman,
yeah,
you know. But now they're at home, and there's this distance there. And then, of course, there's also like the whole shutting of the door, kind of door shutting on him, right? Which is what's
yeah,
happening with door to the bathroom. I think doors are such a crucial part, and we'll get more of this later. But that's the first big thing I wanted to highlight with this
yeah.
opening
I
scene.
want to just interject here and say that like it almost seemed like I couldn't even believe when I was watching it that was meant to be the bathroom where you work because I was like, what is that
Yeah,
gigantic hallway with this huge glass door? Like it's so absurd.
yeah. I think, like you're saying, if this is a psychological movie, right? So the door isn't this big. It's exaggerated because we're kind of getting it from his view, right?
Hmm.
We're supposed to be like the door is actually this big, or like this is like a normal thing to happen, but it's more
Yeah,
just to him it's this big. So for our purposes, the door is this big and it's
yeah.
dramatic. And
But okay, so if we have this bathroom door as being the symbol of like distance between that life and his home life and stuff, why was it a clear glass door? Why wasn't it like opaque?
I think it was a clear glass door.
Huh?
You sure it was a clear glass door?
Yeah. They like led down a big hallway, right? Let me
Yeah, I
check,
guess
but I
so. It is a clear glass, but then like all the shots they have of it are kind of like this lead to this darkness.
yeah, yeah, it's true.
Makes sense because I think it just adds a bit of cruelty, right? Where you can still see the outside and they can still see the inside, but they don't actually know
True.
what's going on.
Yeah, true.
Um, but yeah, so then we go outside, right?
Hmm.
And did you guys notice anything about like this outside world, like the city?
Lots more doors and windows, honestly. The windows, especially. Like in the apartment complex, you can see like all the windows will be off but his and stuff.
Hmm. But also background of the hotel, they're all fake. You guys
What'd
notice
you say?
this?
I couldn't. You kind of cut out.
So all of the buildings, like in
Hmm.
the background, like right in front of his hotel, they're all fake.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I think is like really interesting. It's like a weird choice, right? Because it's not because there's definitely some real buildings in this movie and like some kind of big looking real buildings too. I feel like it's interesting because it kind of helps to highlight this kind of which he is living in.
Yeah.
And I think that's major theme of the movie is fantasy versus reality.
Uh,
What?
I feel like we've. It's tough to say that's like the central theme of the movie. Maybe like one small theme, but
It's a one of
yeah.
and I think it is pretty big though. I think it's obviously the cycle of life, right? We literally get like the opening quote
Yeah.
talking about, but you know, very clear throughout this movie. I have so many notes on this. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you guys know what the German title of the movie means?
No.
So the last man is an idea in like Nietzsche's philosophy, because like there's the Ubermensch, the overman, who's like kind of like the ideal man. He's in charge of everything, and then the last man is basically like a degenerate who's like cowardly and stuff like this, and arrogant and evil and all this. Basically every bad quality.
Gee. It's interesting
Mhm.
because maybe he isn't like completely arrogant, but he's definitely incredibly self-involved.
Yeah, I mean, maybe arrogant is like not one of the central qualities of the Last Man, but basically, like imagine like he's the bad guy basically, right?
Yeah,
Like he's all
sure.
the bad characteristics, but primarily he's cowardly and he's a degenerate, like someone who is like addicted to drugs or alcohol is the Last Man, or someone who like hides in religion to avoid looking at his own flaws or something like that. I don't know.
Interesting. I think he kind of is, right? I mean, obviously not hiding his religion or anything, but flaws to this extreme extent, and he kind of leads, kind of builds up himself personality as the doorman, right? To
Yep.
the point where he lies to everybody.
Yeah, it like takes over basically. That's like his one like persona.
As the doorman, he can build himself up into something. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And his life story, we constantly see just this. I was saying, kind of this. It's almost like this, mythical kind of thing, right? It's like fantasy world.
Yeah.
Like obviously, as a doorman, you get all these like crazy shots of like the big lights of the hotel and him like helping everybody. These sorts of things. After he's got fired, but he's still wearing his doorman's uniform, so to the everyone else is the doorman still. When he goes to this wedding or this wedding ceremony,
Mhm.
done in this like very bizarre way. It's also all this smoke going around, so it's like incredibly whimsical. You know,
Hmm.
watching a theater like an actual theater or something, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys notice? So in these scenes of the wedding, he is wearing his uniform, and out wearing his uniform, what is he doing? Or what's his state? He's completely drunk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when he's not the doorman, he needs another escape.
That's true.
Working, so what does he do? He gets incredibly drunk, and then of
Yep.
course,
That's definitely the Last Man.
what's the irony behind him getting drunk? Is he still dreams about being a doorman,
Yeah.
right? And within this dream, he convinces himself it is reality, right?
Mhm.
And the next day, thinking he's still a doorman until
Oh
he
yeah.
wakes up
Okay.
once again.
Nice. I didn't quite catch that, but that makes sense now.
Just, he builds things up for himself so much, right?
Mhm.
Good job, because this isn't supposed to definitely a subjective movie, right? Like we're
Uh huh.
talking about with the door, like with his facial expressions, or these scenes with the guard with his flashlight, which like
Yeah.
is fear a lot, right? But at the same time, we get a pretty objective stance on his life.
Uh huh.
Like scenes, like with the guards, it doesn't feel that tense to me. You know,
Yeah.
it's not that tense. So Murnau's juxtaposing in the moment. There is no big reveal. It's very clear the whole time that this guy is for himself.
Mhm.
Um, of course, I think the two more big scenes we have, or I guess I'll let you guys talk about them because I've done enough talking. What do you guys think of the firing scene?
Uh, I think I was a little confused at first what exactly happened to him. Like I was like, I thought this guy was getting demoted, but I couldn't tell if he was just getting fired. Instead, I couldn't tell like if he was the old man that was getting fired or if he was getting promoted to some other older man's position. I eventually figured it out, but it was not clear in the moment.
Probably just a subtitle thing, though. I feel like.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I already mentioned. I thought it was too long. That was the example I gave of too long of a scene, and
I agree. This scene, the build up to it is. But you think the actual scene itself is too long? So I think the scene itself is brilliant.
pretty much the build up, yeah. But an extension, the scene itself, but because that's the whole point of that build up. But
I love this scene with like the superposition of his life on the text, because of course that's what you're gonna think, right? And this is a
Yeah.
silent movie. And Murnau's trying to like keep us in the silent movie, which with no we can maybe talk about later. But So he communicates this by literally putting up what I think is a very relatable feeling where when something bad happens, like almost our immediate reaction is like, man, what are people gonna think of me?
Hmm.
Girl at my apartment who looks up to me so much thinks me as the doorman. What is she gonna think?
Yeah, that's true. It's all like relative to what other people are.
And then of course you get this hilarious scene where he tries to lift this bag, and of course, fashion ever completely fails
Uh-huh.
and falls down. He has to literally be helped up. Okay, Derek, I'll let you choose to talk about one of these two scenes because I think there's two other. Do you want to talk about the drunk scene, or do you want to talk about the ending scene or the ending sequence? I guess.
Mm, I'll talk about the ending sequence because that was pretty
Go for it.
interesting. That I don't know it. I remember specifically him going back to like the washroom or like a bathroom of some kind, and it was interesting because I think the thing that stood out for me the most is the like the direction of the how it was shown because like when he was working the bathroom, it was from like the bathroom windows would be on the left, and it was left to right, like how it was shot, and then in the end it's right to left, and him the doorways to the like right to left. So like the mirrors are end up on the right side instead of the left.
Interesting. Yeah, they kind of like reverse it.
And like I remember that because I watched a video on how editing like and direction affect perception, and right to left is seen as abnormal, and left to right is seen as or other way around. Right to left is normal, and left to right is abnormal.
I think you're right the first time.
Oh, I was okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So this would be abnormal then. Right to left
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Right to left is
yeah,
abnormal.
which makes sense. Which also because you think about how you read left to right.
Yeah.
Normal.
Well, that's
These
really
are things that
clever.
I
Holy
pick up
crap,
on.
I did not catch that. There's a lot to this movie that I didn't realize.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And of course, the whole final sequence is such a joke. And like,
Yeah, oh, it's so dark. Like, yep, and then that guy died sad and alone. Maybe I'll tell you about it, as if he didn't, though. And then just like goes off, basically.
not even maybe. It's they the people. The studio literally made me do this because they thought it'd be too depressing.
Oh, really?
So
That's not
here
what
you
my
go.
Yeah.
translation said.
Yeah. Mine was like also it's like he probably should have ended here, or he intended to end here, but uh we're just gonna continue on with this as if it is a happy ending.
Yeah, that's
It's
like what mine
literally.
said, but mine didn't say the whole about the studio. That's pretty funny.
I don't know if I've actually in this subtext, but definitely 100% studio made him do this.
I
It's
see.
that's like 100% confirmed thing.
Oh, wow. Jeez, that's
Hilarious.
crazy.
Yeah, they actually made him just
Because,
give him a happy ending.
but it's even funnier that he puts that title card in there, like just basically tell everyone like this is not real. But
Exactly,
yet it
because
still
the
makes
whole
people
movie
happy.
has
But it still makes people happy, even though they know it's not real, because the whole movie's, I guess, like in a way, not real to begin with. It's weird.
exactly because and it's even funnier because he hasn't put a title card in the whole movie, right?
It's true.
Jarring at this moment.
Yeah, and it helps it feel like the end because it seems like something that would happen at the end of the movie.
And then like, oh, we get this add on real quick. Which is
Jeez,
just so ridiculous with him like
that's so clever.
stuff and like giving tips to every single person. Of
Yeah.
course,
Oh
the worst
man.
part is everyone's still laughing at him, right? He's still just as much of a joke. He's
I
just
guess
a
that's
joke with
true.
money
I
now.
did find that was like the one good thing about that ending is that it's pretty redeeming for the main character, right? Because like the only thing he really wants to spend his money on, if he was at the top of the pyramid, is doing stuff to make other people happy. And then I guess we could spin it as make other people like him, but even then, it's still comes off as like I want to be someone that's good to my fellow man
Yeah, I
because
agree.
he gives that homeless person a ride, even right. So
I think yeah, he definitely redeemed in this moment. So Murnau makes this ending work, right? It's forced upon him, but I think he does everything he can to make it hilarious, or like
mhm.
and just really like strong, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually the brilliance of it. Is it does come off as fake, but somehow not meaningless. I don't know if that makes sense.
I totally agree. Like it's there's definitely meaning there, but you also know that like this isn't how it actually is.
Yeah.
I think it makes it even stronger actually, because then that knowing that it's fake helps you believe the lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, also, like, it is
This
probably
wouldn't
a lie.
actually
Like,
happen.
maybe even this portion of the movie is a lie. Part of the fantasy is not just that he is granted his inheritance, but the fantasy is that given the inheritance, he would spend it on other people. Even that is part of the fantasy. And that if he were to actually
Exactly.
receive this inheritance, he would not spend it that way. But him being so generous is part of the fantasy.
That's actually really smart. I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that. Yeah, like the whole thing is just like so ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
But and yeah, like him getting this money is no more ridiculous than him actually using it on other people.
Yeah.
Or like
It
still being a
almost
helpful doorman, basically.
Yeah, it almost like tricks you into thinking it's a happy ending. It tries its hardest to trick you into thinking it's a happy ending, but it's actually not.
Exactly.
It's a troll movie. This movie's a troll.
Talk about one more scene I really want to talk about before we get it to wrapping up. Is this drunk scene? Because I think this scene's brilliant.
Hmm.
I think it's just so goofy, right? With like him blowing on his little whistle. But also he has this right? Because for the most part, right? Yeah, we have this woman at the beginning and then we have this guy's outside. But the interaction, as this a lot of times when you're drunk, you go back to your room, you almost do have a dialogue with yourself.
Yeah, it's actually true.
Like, how can we have a dialogue with yourself, right? With
Or how can we
no,
what? Sorry, you kind of cut out.
how in a silent film, how can you present a dialogue with
Yeah,
yourself,
it's true.
right? Especially where you have like no dialogue cards. Is he creates a conversation between. By the way, we've talked about this either. Is completely unnamed throughout the entire movie, which I think is interesting in and of itself.
Hmm.
And the camera. There's this moment where I think the trumpet's blazing and we go back to the doorman, and the doorman's kind of like doing a very typical drunk thing. He kind of like moves his eyes from side to side, like all happy.
Yeah.
And we get a shot of the camera, which is like on focused on him, and he's still, but the camera itself is moving from side to side.
Uh huh.
And then we get like this reverse shot where we get like his face, and then like him looking out, like in this with this POV shot. And it really is a conversation between him and the camera, which I think is just brilliant. And
That's so funny.
talking to himself, but without the actual talking. Okay. You guys
That
have
is
anything
funny.
else you want to say about these movies?
I've appreciated the last lap a lot more since talking about it. I'll say that much. Maybe even as much as Tennis Court of Love movie.
Much as what? I'm sorry.
The Tennis Court of Love movie. The other woman.
Okay.
Oh, this is so much better. Come on.
No, I'm saying it's a better movie, but I'm saying the change in
sure.
my opinion of it is like on the other one I went from like a 3 to like a 7 or an 8. On this one I went from like a 6 to like a 9.
There you go. We'll take it.
I can't believe y'all actually like that fucking movie just because it's a stupid fucking tennis court idea.
It's a metaphor, dude. It has metaphors. It makes it better.
There's also more.
It's barely a
There's detail.
metaphor. It's so fucking dumb. I hate that movie.
She's master of the tennis court of love.
Back and forth, dude. The back and forth.
But even though that movie was not that great, like at the end, like it was good, but it wasn't that great. Like I still think that episode is probably my favorite, like one of my favorite, most rewarding movie watching experiences.
If I could remove one movie from existence, it'd be that fucking movie.
Jeez. Anyway.
Okay.
There's a scene. I don't remember the specifics of it, but like there was like the old woman outside of the window or whatever of the bathroom that he was in, and it was like a shot of him like screaming into the window, and like I don't remember like why, but
dude, it's so strong.
it was like I don't know.
Like straight up like a fat creepy. I know exactly what you're talking about. You get this kind of like downward shot of him, of society staring onto him, right? Because if we're supposed to believe this from society to him at work, it's a society glaring at him. and seeing him for what he is, which is this evil liar, right? And he looks also weirdly like Golem, like almost depraved.
Mm-hmm.
And a fiend
Wait,
to how he wants people to see him.
what were you saying, Derek? Like
Like
a little bit before this, can you repeat that?
like I don't know, it was kind of just like really intense, the shot of it coming through the window like that and the quick changes in like perspective.
Yeah, I like that shot too because when the woman screams back down at him, as soon as she screams, it like instantly fogs up the window, which is really cool.
I noticed that too. I think that's like a really like cool little thing.
Mhm.
Okay, are we going to start voting on things now?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Step up or step down? Day in the country. It's a step up or step down from which one was first? The French Can-Can.
Down.
I'd say step up. Actually, no. Step down. Step down.
Yeah, I'll go step down as well. And I think we all had the river higher than.
Yeah.
So I think it's step down.
Did I already mention how those shots along the river reminded me so much of the river? Like both of these movies are about rivers, basically,
Yeah, you didn't. That's
and
actually
all of those
interesting.
supernatural shots, like of when they're in the boat canoeing down, and
Mhm.
he's just like pointing the camera out the shoreline, basically, for, like these pretty protracted shots. Is very similar to the river when they're going down the titular river and are filming all these like temples and stuff on the shore.
Both about love too. Renoir loves his love.
Yep.
He can't get enough of it. Okay. The last laugh. Step up or step down from Taboo.
Step up.
Step up.
Now step up or step down from Faust.
Step down.
It's a step up.
I say step up. I loved Faust, but I think this is a little better.
I agree. Both, by the way, I'm sure you guys noticed this. Both Emil Jannings, same guy.
Oh, I actually didn't notice that. That's cool.
Oh yeah. Also, Visconti was the assistant director on this movie, Day in the Country.
Really, it's kind of funny.
Oh, another little fun fact is the young girl in A Day in the Country was the wife of Georges Bataille, who's like a famous French short story author.
Connections just keep on coming. I don't have any fun facts, unfortunately. I ruined it. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so I mean, favorite quote's kind of weird. We can do favorite quote if you want, but I don't even know if I have a single one written down. Actually,
I don't have any written down either. I don't.
Yeah, I didn't really. None really stood out to me, to be honest.
I think that's fair. Favorite scene?
Hmm.
It's opening scene of The Last Laugh. I've talked about why it's so brilliant.
I like the whole kind of ending. It's not necessarily. It was a little broad for one scene, but the whole kind of epilogue to Last Laugh I thought was super clever.
I agree. Derek?
The shot of the girl swinging in Day in the Country.
Ooh.
That's another great one. I have any of the three, I think. Okay. Next, I'll do favorite character. Oh,
I guess I kind of like the mustachioed fella from Day in the Country. He was
Dolph.
actually that was a thing we didn't talk about at all. But the acting in Day in the Country and honestly Last Laugh too were both really good. But I think the acting in Day in the Country was like I noticed especially was good. There's like the dialogue between those two guys was just brilliant. The kind of more physical comedy of the dad and the son-in-law are just so funny. Really good.
I like you mentioned the dialogue because I feel like this is kind of the beginning to kind of the typical two French people talking, which
Yeah,
really
I thought
begins to
that
pervade
too.
French cinema. This is
Yeah,
kind of like the two French guys just chatting up about life.
yeah. And they both
It was
just do
also
so well, and they take close-ups too, and they do it well.
it still feels casual, you know what I mean? Even in these close-ups, I think.
Yeah,
They're, my favorite character is also Rodolphe. And one thing we didn't talk about with Rodolphe is like he's portrays like the skeezy one. Today, his relationship with is so much more innocent. Henry and Henriette's relationship.
yeah, that's totally intentional. They basically do a bait and switch on you almost, where like
Yeah.
he comes off as skeevy, but really he just wants to have fun, and the other guy is like withdrawn, but he ends up like raping a person.
Like, Henry, they both like to seduce, but Henry needs something a bit more. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's kind of very dark and twisted.
yeah, that's true.
Of like Rodolphe, like chasing her around like the Pied Piper.
Yeah, and it's significant that like Rudolph is blonde haired and Henri or whatever is dark haired.
Definitely agree.
But it's kind of weird though because Henri kind of you first start thinking like it's kind of portrayed you at first that he's going to be the main character and the other guy's going to be like a baboon and he's going to be the thoughtful, sweet, intelligent one. But really, it reverses on you. Oh man, that movie's so good too. Dang it, they're both so good.
That's what I'm saying, man. I guess we're so negative to start off. I think these are both brilliant movies.
I think they both get a lot better upon analysis. Or maybe I think part of it is we haven't watched movies in a long time, so my ability to like critically analyze a movie as I'm watching it is diminished, and it takes me like a conversation to really get it out.
I think that's fair. That's why we have the podcast.
Yeah,
You, me, and the people at home.
dang.
You are included in the you, by the way, Derek.
Oh, thank you. My favorite character, by the way, is probably
You could. I was gonna segue.
the
Okay, go.
girl in Day in the Country, Henriette.
Yeah, interesting. Because she's so like peaceful, etc.
Yeah, I think she reminds me of like someone that came out of a straight out of painting.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Which makes it all the more dark what happens to her. Okay, best performance. Hopefully, we're all on the same page here. I think it's definitely Emil Jannings in The Last Laugh.
Really?
I think it's brilliant. The way he moves, like he moves with such intentionality. Like I've never seen an actor move this way. And yeah, it's a bit cartoonish, but I think it works.
Yeah, I can
I
agree
kind of
with
thought
that.
the actor that played Henri was a little better.
I don't think he's even the strongest in that movie.
I'll go with the guy from Last Laugh, Mill Jannings. That's
I think it's
a
probably
good
just a
one.
style preference for me.
Okay, so we'll start off with you.
Oh, my pick.
Movie of all time, Derek.
Okay, my favorite movie of all time is Doctor Strangelove. I think it's really good.
I thought it was Network.
No. That's one of my favorites.
Both great movies. Okay, but two.
Out of these movies, my favorite is Partie de Campagne or Day in the Country.
You wanna? You should thought The Last Laugh was a bit too slow.
Pretty much, and also I didn't bring this up, but pretty much. Oh, I did. I said it was just like really well shot, but I don't know, the aesthetic of Day in the Country like really got to me. I digged it a lot.
I'm with you, Caleb.
This is
I'm
hard for me.
voting. Wait, let me go next because it's hard for you and it's not
Okay.
hard for me. I'm going for The Last Laugh.
Okay.
He is and so that's on the podcast. Renoir is my favorite director. Me choosing Murnau because I like him better. It's kind of unfortunate this is the movie that was chosen for him. because it is like a 40-minute movie and it does feel incomplete.
Yeah.
And there's this weird thing with the sex scene, which carols of. Obviously, the shot with the window is brilliant. Obviously, there's so much brilliant going on, right? It's such a fun movie. Stronger, it's a bit more well thought out. That sort of thing. Caleb, you can go.
All
Sorry
right.
for cutting you off.
Well, no, it's fine. So what I'll say is, and I think this is hard for me because these two movies are like they kind of take up two different ends of the dichotomy. Whereas one of them, I think, is not clean. Like Last Laugh is not a clean movie. It doesn't really feel like it's smoothly put together. It feels it lags a bit. There's some spots that just feel a little bit slack. On the other hand, it has like a lot of stuff to dig into because there's so much going on and it's so slow paced. It manages to like basically fit a lot of things to think about in there. And then on the other hand, I think Renoir offers like a pretty good chunk of things to think about. Not quite as much or as detailed as The Last Laugh, but on the other hand, it's just it's a sleeker, cleaner product to enjoy, and like for me, a much more enjoyable watch for sure. Because like I said, like my opinion has been redeemed on The Last Laugh a lot already because I literally fell asleep for like a good chunk of this movie because I just thought it was too slow and boring. So I will say Day in the Country because I think it also has a lot of stuff to think about and talk about. Like we could talk about the, you know, subtleties of their character in that sex scene for a really long time. So there's a lot to think about, and it was an enjoyable watch and felt clean as compared to The Last Laugh, which has a lot to dig into. And if we watched it 10 more times, I'd probably end up liking it more. But it just was not an enjoyable watch for me.
Okay. Well, that means Renoir moves on. I believe next is Luck Grand Illusion. One of me, but I would be shocked if it wasn't. Um, for the next round,
Mhm.
Yes.
give the movies for the next round.
Let me check and see. 1 second.
Just doing that. Actually, I do agree. Party Campaign has like interesting aspects to it. I just think it's actually not even the amount for me. It's really I just think that Campaign is like a bit more basic.
We can
You know what I mean?
do Ozu, Antonini, or Mizoguchi and Lin.
Let's do Ozu Antonini because I think Mizuguchi and Lynch were both pretty recent.
All right.
What are the movies?
They are An Autumn Afternoon by Ozu and L'Eclisse by Antonini.
Autumn Afternoon and L'Eclisse by it's Antonioni, which I thought was Antonini for a long time too, but I believe it's Antonioni.
Antonioni. Okay.
I'm excited to watch a movie that's has the same naming convention as Early Summer.
Ozu, brilliant director. Doesn't seem to care to spend too much time thinking of names of movies.
Yeah, it's true.
Definitely a fan of Tokyo Story. I think 4 different movies named after seasons. A lot of these sorts of things. We'll get into both of these movies next time. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. All 3 of you listening. Day, night, week, month, and remember, watch more movies.